Welcome to Techtober, where it is the most exciting month of the year, where there are a lot of smartphone launches and other tech products coming into the studio. And this is the Xiaomi 12T Pro, which is a really exciting smartphone as I've been using it for about 48 hours. This is one of the first, or if not one of the first, it is the first smartphone with a 200 megapixel smartphone camera to be sold commercially in Malaysia. And I've been very impressed for the past 48 hours, and here are my first impressions about it. In terms of design, the Xiaomi 12T Pro looks pretty much the same like the Xiaomi 12 Pro, apart from this new camera bump right here, which houses this really big 200 megapixel sensor, but more on the camera in a bit. Now, this is the black color model that I've got right over here. It's simply just called black, there's no fancy name or whatsoever. And on the front here, you get a flat AMOLED display instead of a curved display, just like you get on the Xiaomi 12 Pro, which is kind of normal because Xiaomi don't usually try to make the T series to be more premium than its regular numbered series, if I were to call that, right? So the 12T Pro is essentially a more affordable version of its flagship. So having a flat display definitely saves some cost in terms of manufacturing. So what you get here is a really nice 6.67-inch Full HD Plus AMOLED display. It is not an LTPO display, by the way, but it still refreshes at 120 Hz. So Xiaomi uses its software to adaptively change its refresh rate depending on what kind of things that you're doing right here. But this is definitely not going to be as good as an LTPO display, as it can refresh from a super low 1 Hz up to 120 Hz to conserve power. Now, in terms of build, this is a really nice build phone. I really prefer this over the 12 Pro because it actually feels smaller in hand due to its smaller screen size here. The Xiaomi 12 Pro, by the way, has a 6.73-inch display that definitely feels a lot larger, but due to the curved displays, it actually feels smaller. But I really like the aesthetics of the Xiaomi 12T Pro. And unfortunately, this phone is not IP68 water and dust resistant, which is again kind of normal because this is going to be an affordable flagship. So it's normal that Xiaomi is not going to include any sort of IP, water and dust resistance rating. Even the Xiaomi 12 Pro doesn't have it. So yep, you do not expect that to happen on the Xiaomi 12T Pro. Now, this phone still comes with stereo speakers, which is tuned by Harman Kardon, but it is not a 4-speaker system like the 12 Pro, so you definitely get a little less bass, but to be honest, the speaker still sounds very good. And here's a quick sound test of it. Now, since this is a newer flagship, there's bound to be some minor upgrades over the Xiaomi 12 Pro despite being a more affordable flagship. Now, one of it would be the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 processor, which is a more powerful and more efficient chipset than the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 that is on the Xiaomi 12 Pro. And the battery size has been bumped to 5000 mAh as compared to 4600 mAh on the Xiaomi 12 Pro. And I think these are really great upgrades that Xiaomi has done on the Xiaomi 12T Pro. But being a more affordable flagship, there's also some downgrades as well, such as the lack of wireless charging, and also the two cameras that complements the 200 megapixel camera is a lower resolution 8 megapixel ultra wide and a 2 megapixel macro lens, which is kind of a little underwhelming, just like what the OnePlus 10T is all about. And the front-facing camera has been downgraded from a 32 megapixel to a 20 megapixel camera. Now, since I've been only using the Xiaomi 12T Pro for the past 48 hours and I had a brief time with the 200 megapixel camera, and boy, the details are amazing when you shoot in 200 megapixels. I know it's kind of like a gimmick, to be honest. Not everyone shoots in that kind of resolution, just like how you probably wouldn't shoot 48 megapixels in ProRAW with an iPhone 14 Pro. But it's a technological marvel on how Xiaomi is able to put this kind of sensor into this phone, because this 200 megapixel sensor would be so useful for mobile photographers who wants to do a lot of cropping into their subjects. Now imagine this phone doesn't have a telephoto lens, so if you do a digital zoom, you can comfortably just crop into the picture and to get that detail, even though it doesn't look as great as compared to an optical lens, of course. But you get the idea. When you want to like really shoot something and you want to get close to your subject, the 200 megapixel camera definitely complements the optical zoom by getting into your subject closer by just cropping in. The subjects are just so detailed. As you look at this sample picture right now, I've actually shot a picture with the iPhone 14 Pro's 48 megapixel camera. As you can see on the buildings, you can definitely look at the lines on the awning and the tiles, and even look at the grass on the floor and the trees there. You can definitely see all the details as compared to the 48 megapixel camera that is on the iPhone 14 Pro. So that is the biggest benefit that the 200 megapixel camera on the Xiaomi 12T Pro offers. But otherwise, in most cases, this phone is going to shoot in 12 megapixel resolution when you are not using the 200 megapixel mode. And to be honest, the colors all look pretty good. Even in low light, it also looks decent as well. Not the best smartphone low light camera that I've ever seen, but of course it is definitely sufficient. And in terms of its ultra-wide camera, I think this is a really decent 8 megapixel ultra-wide camera, even though I hope that Xiaomi would have like bump up the resolution a bit, but it actually takes really nice colors and there's no distortion or any soft focusing issues like most ultra-wide cameras that I've seen. And as for the selfie camera, it actually looks good, to be honest. It's not exactly a bad camera, but as usual, I would have hoped for a better selfie camera on a flagship smartphone. In terms of video recording, the main camera can record up to 8K resolution at 24 frames per second, just like the S22 Ultra. To be honest, it is something that I wouldn't be using for video recording, but if you record in 4K 60 frames all the time, this is a really good camera. Look at this sample video that I took around the studio and I got out to the balcony. The white balance and the exposure is just so good at adjusting on its own. I think this is probably one of the best video cameras that Xiaomi has ever done on a flagship smartphone. And unfortunately, the front camera, despite having a really good 20 megapixels, which would have easily done 4K 30, it is only limited to 1080p at 60 frames per second. But I can tell you that video quality isn't too bad, at least for TikTok videos. Overall, the Xiaomi 12T Pro is a really great phone and I definitely look forward to use this as my main driver, and meanwhile, while I'm completing the review, I'll be comparing against some of the devices that I have in the studio, so definitely stay tuned for that. As for pricing, the Xiaomi 12T Pro will be available in two storage variants right here in Malaysia. It will be available in the 8GB RAM and 256GB storage model, which will retail at 25.99 ringgit, and the 12GB RAM and 256GB model that will retail at 29.99 ringgit. These are very competitive prices as usual from Xiaomi and gives devices like the OnePlus 10T a good run for its money. So that's all for today's video, and let me know what you want to know about the Xiaomi 12T Pro in the comment section down below, and I'll be sure to conclude them in the final review. As for now, thanks for watching it and I'll see you in the next one.